I'm Matt, and welcome to the Black Cat Bushcraft channel. Today I'm going to do a little bit different type of video. This is actually a video response to a friend of mine who also has a YouTube channel here, and the channel is Ras Does Bushcraft, and I'll put a link to Ras's channel down in the description box. Ras is a really good bushcrafter. He has a great channel and he shares some really good content, so I highly recommend that you go check out his channel. Ras, I appreciate you, mentioning me in your video and asking for a response, and I'm happy to do that. And I hope you'll enjoy the response. All right, so the first question that Ras asked was, "What got you into the outdoors life?" And I have to say that ever since I was a young boy, I've been into the outdoors in one way or another. When I was growing up, my grandfather lived on our family's land, which is farmland. And there's a lot of woods and stuff, of course, around on the property. And my first cousin, Jonathan, who's still like a brother to me today, also lived right down from my grandfather, probably 200-300 yards from my grandfather's house. He and I are exactly the same age. And I grew up in the city limits of a very small town, maybe 5 miles away. And so every chance I got, I would come and stay with Jonathan or with my grandfather. And the two of us would just hit the woods. We used to be really big into Army surplus stuff, and we would go to the flea markets on Saturdays with whatever money we could scrounge up, and we would buy old backpacks and whatever kind of bags we could buy, and we would buy every little military thing we could get, and we would dress up in our military clothes, whatever we could scrounge up, and we would go out into the woods and we'd pack food. And we would pack our first aid kits and things like that, and we would hike out. We'd hike forever, out into the woods, and we'd set up a base camp. Sometimes we'd set up tents. Sometimes we would set up, forts and things like that. And we would cook our food. I used to have an old Vietnam-era sterno stove. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. We would light fire sometimes, especially when we were growing up. My uncle, Jonathan's father, my grandfather, they used to be real big at cooking on the grill, and so there was always a grill lit, and sometimes they'd have a fire lit too around that, and everybody would just kind of congregate around those things and just enjoy company with each other. So I've always just had a passion to be in the outdoors. We just had a great time as kids. We went through a lot of fishing time. We used to spend hours and hours and hours fishing, and our fishing started just fishing in ponds, farm ponds on the bank. We would spend hours doing that. And then later on, as we got older, we started wanting to fish at the beach, and that became pier fishing and surf fishing. And then now as adults, it became, boats, taking boats out and, fishing, and which neither of us really have the time to do as much anymore. And so now we've kind of gravitated back towards fishing in the ponds, which actually is more simple and seems to be just as enjoyable, if not more so. This is a lot less to worry about and a lot less expense. And both of us have kids now, so simple is better, I think. But as long as I can remember, I've always been into the outdoors and enjoyed being in the woods or by the water. When I was younger, I used to do a lot of hunting with my grandfather. We would hunt doves and squirrels. I can remember hunting raccoon. I remember I killed a coon one time when I was younger with a shotgun, and that was a big deal. And then later, when I was maybe 16, 17, I got big into deer hunting. And Jonathan's father, my uncle Butch, was a fantastic deer hunter, and he had stands all around our land, and he taught me a lot, and actually got to shoot my first deer, I think when I was 16, 17, around that time. And so a lot of good memories as a kid, hunting, fishing, hiking, camping. We were into all of it, and that continues until today. The second question was, are there any particular people who influenced you to get into the outdoors? My father passed away when I was 7 years old, but during the time that I had with him, he made a huge impression on me. My father was big into shooting and hunting, and also into fishing. We didn't have a whole lot of trips doing those things together, but I do have very fond memories of the few times that we did those things. And I always remembered that I wanted to do those things with him. He inspired that in me. And later on, my uncle, Jonathan's father, who I mentioned before, and my grandfather were huge into fishing. And my uncle was big into hunting as well. And when I turned like maybe 16, 17, that's when I started deer hunting. So I would say that those three men, my father, my grandfather, and my uncle, were the three who probably influenced me most as a kid to want to get into the outdoors. It's interesting though that none of those men were really into bushcrafting or camping at all. I can't remember a time of camping with my father, my grandfather, or my uncle. I don't think that we ever camped with any of them. But it was always day trips of fishing and hunting. So the third question was, are there any particular skills that you enjoy practicing most when you're in the outdoors? And one of them I'm doing right now. I'm sitting by my nice warm fire. And number two, I'm cooking right here. I've got a nice piece of salmon roasting over the fire. I've spent a lot of my time in the woods dedicated to being able to build fire. And when I say build fire, any which way that I possibly can, whether it be from using something like a bow drill or mastering the use of a ferro rod, flint and steel, solar. I've spent time practicing all of these things. And I don't say that I perfected any of those techniques particularly. I will say that if I come in the woods, I've got fire. I can always pretty much build fire. I don't think I've ever been in the woods and not been able to achieve fire, whether it was raining, whether it was snowing, whatever. I've always been able to achieve that. So not bragging, but just that's something I've spent a lot of time on. The other thing that I really enjoy when I'm in the outdoors is cooking. And if you've watched my channel much, you know that I've got a lot of cooking videos, and everything from, cooking something simple in a bush pot to grilling, something like this where I'm cooking over sticks, whether it's a soup, a stew, whatever. I love cooking over fire. It's just a blast to do camp cooking. Even when I'm at home, I like cooking on the grill. I'd rather cook on the grill than cook inside the house. I just like being outdoors and cooking with fire. That's always something I enjoy a lot. Really, anything in the outdoors is enjoyable to me because when we're out here, we're focusing on basic needs. My life is very hectic. I'm a business owner and I'm constantly pulled in different directions, going from one place to the other. I feel like I rush from the time my feet hit the floor in the morning until I conk out at night. It's just always busy. I always have somewhere I have to be, something I have to be doing. When I come into the woods, I can focus on keeping myself warm. I can focus on, cooking myself on my own time, something good to eat. I can focus on making myself comfortable when I lay down. Just the most basic things. Keep myself hydrated. It's just nice to unwind and get back to our very most basic roots. And that's really what I find personally is the more I focus on the most basic things, the more I enjoy bushcrafting and being in the great outdoors. Whether it be the most basic items of my kit or the most basic skills. Getting back to our roots, I think, is really the key to enjoying yourself. And it's a classic quote, not to come out here and rough it, but to come out here and smooth it, and just really, unwind and get away from the complex, hectic life that we lead and get back to basics. I appreciate you guys taking the time to tune in for this. Ras, big shout out to you, brother. I appreciate you mentioning me in the video, and I'm happy to take the time to answer those questions. I hope I gave you some good information, help you better understand me as a YouTuber and as a bushcrafter. I know I talked a lot. I could have rambled on and on and on about my past and stuff we did when I was a kid and so forth, but this is just a little taste to give you an idea of where I come from, who I am, and I hope to hear more from you. I look forward to tuning into your channel, and I hope everybody else will visit your channel as well. Thank you guys for your time, your interest, your support, and I look forward to talking to you with another video as soon as possible. And until then, take care and God bless. I got to get over here to this fish because it smells good and it's looking good. That is some good stuff right there.